Maybe you'll make it as a waitress. That's what my father said. Loud, clear, right after my sister finished her speech. He was standing near the buffet table, holding a glass of wine like he was the damn mayor. And half the backyard laughed with him. It was supposed to be a celebration. Sarah had just earned her master's in communications. There were white tents, catered food, monogrammed napkins. My mom even ordered those gold acrylic signs that said, "Proud moment." All of it for Sarah. Not that I minded. I helped plan it, set up the slideshow, paid the deposit on the chairs. And I wasn't expecting praise. But I wasn't expecting that either. I was holding a plate for my daughter, Ava, just 10 years old. When he said it, she looked up at me, then slowly down at her lap, the same way I did. Something inside me cracked. "You hear that?" Dad went on. "Dropped out of med school and still shows up to eat. At least she's consistent." More laughter. My mother said nothing, just picked at her salmon like she hadn't heard. My sister raised her eyebrows but didn't say a word. I felt every stare, every smirk. Even people I didn't know laughed like it was entertainment. I wanted to run. I didn't. I stood there and swallowed it. And then a black car pulled up by the front gate, the kind you see in government motorcades. All tinted windows and quiet confidence. A man in a tailored suit stepped out. He walked past the archway, through the tent, and stopped a few feet in front of me. He glanced down at a folder, then looked up. "We're here for Dr. Naomi Jordan." Dead silence, the kind that makes people freeze mid-bite. My father blinked. "Excuse me." The man smiled politely. "UCSF Medical Center's newest surgical hire. Is she ready?" He didn't look at Sarah, or my mom, or anyone else. Just me. I set the plate down. Gently. My hands were still trembling. "Yes," I said, my voice steady now. "I am. My name is Naomi Jordan, and from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me, because some stories don't start with a triumph. They begin in the exact moment you realize you're done being quiet. I thought the silence would turn into applause, or maybe relief, or pride. It didn't. No one said a word as I walked toward the car. Ava clutched my hand, looking confused, hopeful. She had no idea what had just shifted, but I did. Behind me, I heard someone whisper, "Wasn't she the one who dropped out?" As if that version of me still existed. I didn't leave immediately. Daniel, the recruiter, had just come to hand over the contract and shake my hand in person. A formality. He left shortly after. I stayed. I sat with Ava on the patio and watched everyone try to pretend nothing had happened. No one came up to congratulate me. No one even made eye contact. It felt colder than any insult. Later that evening, after most of the guests had left, I went inside to grab Ava's sweater. I heard voices coming from the kitchen. "Are you seriously buying that?" Sarah hissed. She must have some connection. Probably slept her way in. My mom replied in that low, clipped tone she only used when she thought no one was listening. "No one just gets back in after 2 years off. Not like that." "Exactly. UCSF? That's not even realistic. I bet she's lying." I stood just outside the doorway, frozen. They weren't shocked. They weren't confused. They weren't even curious. They were bitter, angry that I hadn't needed them, furious that I didn't tell them. And now, scrambling for any explanation that kept me small. That's when I understood. This wasn't new. It never had been. When I got into medical school the first time, my dad said, "Don't let it go to your head. You're not cut out for that kind of pressure." When Ava was born and her father left, Mom told me, "Maybe this is the life you were meant for. Simple. Safe." When I dropped out to take care of Ava after her accident, they called it giving up. Not love. Not sacrifice. They had never believed in me. Not once. And the moment they were forced to look at who I'd become, they didn't cheer. They tried to bury it. This wasn't disappointment. This was sabotage in a nicer dress. I stepped back quietly, grabbed Ava's sweater, didn't say a word, but inside a fire had started. I had spent years apologizing for needing space, for prioritizing my child, for choosing myself. Now, Now I knew exactly who I was dealing with, and I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. People think silence is peace. It's not. Silence is heavy. It presses on your chest and teaches you how to smile while suffocating. I stayed quiet for too long. When Ava was 5, she fell from the second-story landing at daycare. A loose railing, a fractured skull, internal bleeding. I slept on a plastic chair for 6 weeks in the ICU. The machines beeped. The nurses came and went, but no one from my family did. Not once. I called my mom the night of the accident. She said, "Well, that's what happens when you try to balance too much." She didn't mean it like an attack, but she didn't mean it like love either. I told UCSF I had to step away. No guarantees I'd be allowed back. They said they understood, but nothing was promised. When Ava finally spoke again, just a single word, "Mama," I knew I had made the right choice, even if no one else did. I didn't ask my parents for help. Not with rent. Not with childcare. Not with food. I worked nights at a clinic and studied when Ava was asleep. I reapplied to UCSF through the reentry program, passed the recall exams, and quietly reentered my final year. The whole time, I told myself it didn't matter if they acknowledged it. I wasn't doing it for them. But that wasn't entirely true. I wanted them to be proud. I wanted to walk in one day and see my father's face light up, not twist in disbelief. I wanted my mom to post something. Anything. Like she did for Sarah when she got a job in HR and called it breaking barriers. But with me, silence. And now I see why. It was never about pride or love. It was about control. They liked me when I was struggling, when I needed something, when I could be used to make Sarah look better by comparison. My mother once told me, "You were the easy one. Always so quiet." That wasn't a compliment. It was a strategy. The less I asked for, the easier I was to ignore. Flashback to high school. I win a science fair. Mom complains that I missed church. College acceptance. Dad jokes. Let's see how long this lasts. Every milestone had a shadow. They made me doubt joy. And I let them. That was the real cost. Not the nights I didn't sleep or the semesters I took off. It was the years I spent begging for permission to believe in myself. Until I stopped asking. And when I stopped asking, they panicked. Because silence used to be their weapon. Now it was mine. I didn't throw a fit. Didn't block their numbers. Didn't write a dramatic Facebook post. I just started telling the truth. It happened 2 weeks after the party. Ava was sketching in her notebook while I sipped coffee and scrolled through headlines. That's when I saw it. Women in medicine. Silent sacrifices, quiet wars. A long-form piece in a national magazine. An open call for stories. I clicked, and the first few paragraphs hit like a gut punch. Single mothers forced out of residency. Brilliant med students passed over for support because they lacked stability. Women caregivers told they weren't serious enough. It was my story, word for word, except mine hadn't been told yet. So I emailed the journalist. Her name was Layla. She replied within hours. We met the next evening on a Zoom call. She asked, gently, if I'd be comfortable sharing on the record. No, I said. Not yet. I wasn't scared of strangers. I was scared of them. My family. What they'd do to twist it. Who they'd shame if my name was attached. So I spoke anonymously. But I left breadcrumbs only the guilty would recognize. I described how I left med school to care for my injured daughter. How my family mocked me publicly the day I was hired by UCSF. How the people who were supposed to lift me up tried to discredit me instead. I didn't name names, but I didn't need to. 3 weeks later, the piece dropped. It exploded. Medical blogs reposted it. Influencers in healthcare quoted it. Comments flooded in. Sounds way too familiar. This is why so many women leave. I think I know this family. Within hours, a former classmate from undergrad messaged me. This is you, isn't it? I didn't confirm. I just reacted with a heart. The fallout was quiet at first. Then my sister's company reposted the article on their internal feed as part of a women's empowerment initiative. She quit 2 days later. My aunt called to check in, but I could hear the panic behind her voice. And my dad? He left a voicemail I'll never delete. Whatever you think you're doing, it's beneath you. If this is your way of getting back at us, congratulations. You embarrassed your whole family. I listened to it twice, then deleted it. I didn't need his voice anymore. What they didn't understand was that this wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And truth, when told out loud, becomes something else entirely. It becomes freedom. I never said it was me. Not once. But I didn't have to. The article did something no argument ever could. It exposed what people already suspected. And when people see the truth in their gut, they connect the dots on their own. The first real crack came when Sarah called me. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. Then a text. You need to take it down. People think it's about us. I didn't reply. The following week, she posted a long Instagram caption about sisterhood and forgiveness. She ended it with a quote from Maya Angelou, one she never lived by. 2 days later, her internship offer from a startup PR agency was pulled. Apparently, one of the founders read the article and pieced it together. Not just the party incident, but a pattern, small comments Sarah had made about people who quit things and martyr moms. In the world of modern media, perception is reality. And hers had turned. My mother stopped attending her Tuesday book club. One of the women, an oncologist's wife, cornered her in the parking lot and asked, "So, did Naomi really get the UCSF job? Or was that part of the fiction?" I don't know what my mother said, but I know she left early that day and didn't return the next week. My father? He told a neighbor I'd made the whole thing up, called it drama baiting. The neighbor nodded politely and then told his wife, who told her sister, who told her boss. And suddenly, my father wasn't being invited to the local business luncheons anymore. I heard all of this secondhand, never from them, because they couldn't call me without confirming what they feared, that the daughter they tried to bury had become someone the world was now listening to. At the hospital, I kept my head down. Rounds, surgeries, research meetings, late nights at the clinic. One of the surgical nurses pulled me aside and said, "You remind me of my sister. She had to fight like hell too." I just smiled. I never mentioned the article. Not once. But I carried myself differently. Straighter spine. Quieter confidence. They say justice is loud, but for me it came softly. In closed doors that no longer opened for them. In friends who now looked at them with hesitant eyes. In their own questions echoing back at them with no answer. I didn't scream. Didn't post receipts. Didn't gloat. I just let the truth live. And it did. The first time I stood on stage as Dr. Naomi Jordan, I could barely hear myself speak. Not because the microphone was broken, but because I was drowning in disbelief that I was finally here, not in spite of what I'd lived through, but because of it. The panel was titled Mothers in Medicine, Balancing the Unbalanced. I almost said no. I didn't like public attention. I had grown used to shadows, to hiding wins before they could be ridiculed. But something in me knew. I owed it to the woman I used to be to stand there. I told a room full of strangers about sleepless nights on hospital floors with my daughter in my lap, about missing lectures to pay bills, about listening to my family laugh as I bled. And I watched eyes fill with tears. Not pity, recognition. Afterward, a first-year med student came up to me and said, "I thought I was weak for struggling, but maybe I'm just real." That line stayed with me. I started mentoring after that. Young women, first-gen students, single moms, anyone who felt like the system wasn't built for them. It wasn't, of course, but we were building something different now, together. At the hospital, I stopped apologizing for needing time. I set boundaries, left on time for school pickups, took vacations without guilt, started therapy, real therapy, not the take a bath and journal kind, the kind where you sit with the rot and pull it out by name. My therapist asked me once, "What did you learn growing up about love?" I paused, then answered that it had a dress code, a volume level, a price tag. She smiled gently. "And now?" I said, "Now I know love doesn't come with conditions. Control does." We sat in that silence together. It felt like breath. At home, Ava was changing too. She used to draw girls with gray faces, always alone. Now her sketches were in color, bold reds, deep purples. Her people smiled. She signed her drawings, AJ, When I asked why, she shrugged and said, "You're Dr. Jordan. I can be Artist Jordan." I hugged her so tightly she giggled. That's what breaking cycles looks like. Not just doing things differently, but letting them see it. I didn't talk to my family during this time. They didn't reach out either. It was like we had agreed on mutual silence. And honestly, it felt clean. Not bitter. Not angry. Just space. Like clearing the air after a storm. I wasn't healing for them. I wasn't even healing for revenge. I was healing because Ava was watching me. And I wanted her to grow up believing a woman can lose everything and still rebuild something better. It came in a plain white envelope. No return address, just my name written in slanted cursive that I hadn't seen in years. At first, I thought it was junk mail. I almost tossed it, but something in my chest stirred. I opened it slowly, sitting at the edge of my kitchen counter while Ava colored dragons at the table behind me. It was from my father. 3 pages single-spaced. Blue ink. His signature cologne, still faintly on the paper. It started like this. "Naomi, I've been meaning to write. I don't know where we went wrong, but I want to fix it." He said he was proud that he always knew I'd go far. Then, quickly followed with, "You know how dads are. We joke. We push. That's our way." He mentioned the article, though never directly. Just hinted. "I know some things have gotten out there that maybe made us look bad. I forgive you. I forgive you." I read it twice, then folded the letter and placed it in the drawer beside old takeout menus and loose batteries. It didn't deserve more space than that. A week later, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in nearly 8 months, Sarah. The message was short. "Hey, just wondering if you'd want to grab coffee. Clean slate. No drama." It didn't hurt. It didn't even sting. I just stared at it as Ava held up a sketch to show me. A doctor standing in a garden. It looked like me. I smiled, then typed back. I already started over. Alone. And that was it. No shouting. No explanation. No second chapter for people who closed the book on me years ago. Closure didn't come in the form of apologies or big dramatic scenes. It came like this, in my own kitchen, in my own name, in the quiet confidence of someone who survived being erased and decided to write herself back in. I didn't need them to understand. I didn't need their guilt or their change of heart. I needed peace. And the moment I stopped chasing their approval, I found it. There's something sacred about walking away from a cycle and not slamming the door behind you. You just leave it open so they can see what it looks like when you build something better. And maybe one day they'll step out too. But whether they do or not, that's not my weight anymore. The view from my new apartment is quiet and wide. Bay waters that stretch out like forgiveness. I sign the lease on my own. No cosigner, no backup plan. Just my name. Dr. Naomi Jordan. Top floor. 2 bedrooms. A balcony where Ava and I grow herbs we mostly forget to water. She started junior high last month. Wore her hair in a high puff and told me she wanted to run for class president. I smiled so wide I felt it in my ribs. "Go for it," I said. She looked at me for a second, then added, "You know, it's kind of cool that I get to say my mom's a surgeon." It stopped me, not because of pride, but because of how casually she said it. Like it was normal. Like power was something women just had. She doesn't know what that moment meant to me. A week later, I stood alone on the balcony. September breeze in my sleeves. It was the anniversary of the day I walked back into med school. Scared, tired, unsure. So I lit candle, not for anyone else. Just for her. For me. For the girl who thought being strong meant staying small. And I wrote a letter. "Dear Naomi, you were never a failure. You didn't break. You bent yourself around everyone else until you forgot your shape. But look at you now. Sharp again. Solid again. Home again, not in a place, but in your own skin." I folded it, placed it in the back of a photo album I rarely open. No one else will ever read it, but I will always remember writing it. That's the thing about closure. It doesn't knock. It arrives quietly, in the calm of a life you built with bare hands and a steady heart. My family still exists. They still talk, still gather, still circle around each other like they're waiting for someone to blame. But I don't join those circles anymore. I'm not angry. I'm not waiting. I'm just free. And if you've ever felt like your voice was too quiet to matter, let this be proof. A whisper, spoken with truth, can echo louder than a lifetime of noise.